All right, shalom, shalom, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are going to be, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahavah's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect. To today's message is Aman. Shalom, peace, everybody. I'm coming on. Nothing planned as far as schedule. This is actually Patreon. So some of you may catch a little bit pieces of this as it's being uploaded and things of that nature. But for the most part, this is going to be for Patreon members only. This particular first session will be something we're going to do a bunch of sessions in a row. So hopefully, prayerfully, everybody's ready. But we're going to do a bunch kind of back to back of a bunch of things coming out. So prayerfully, you guys are ready for that and are up for that and are ready to learn and willing to grow in some things. This in particular will actually be public as well. So even if you're a free Patreon member, you should be able to find this. And if you're somebody who does not join us normally, you should be able to see this. And if it's something that influences you, this is a $5 tier donation type of thing. So for $5 a month, you get a bunch of things that we might talk about outside of the norm, or certain things that we can't necessarily put in the limelight in regular places because persons, come against us and say all manner of evil against us and are always trying to get us to be, off track. So we try. There's certain things that we just might not post as regularly and publicly as we might do other things. So this is one of those where you are privy to maybe see a few things differently and move a little different with us. And prayerfully, you guys enjoy. But welcome. How you doing, Auntie Marion? I see you. How you doing? D user 244816, etc. How you doing, James? Yeah, Lottie Dyer and everybody, Patreon fam. If you watch this later on, watching it live, whatever the case might be. How you doing, Sister Deborah? Akut Deborah, Achiat Deborah, Hachaba to all. So this basically, this is going to be if you're on TikTok on the original Kofi and his Girl 40 channel. This will basically kind of sort of be like a live session. Where you'll see me talk for a while. But if you're on the platform, whether you're watching this, now or watching it when it comes up on Patreon, these will actually be chopped up. So you get, 15 minutes or so here. We're going to, some Patreon stuff and Jasher today. Then we'll come up with some other videos where we'll speak on, maybe do some hashtag SOC University stuff, but we'll kind of utilize it like that. So you're welcome to stay and welcome to come back on and off, or come on TikTok and see the whole thing. But most persons will not see this, and really it's designed for Patreon mainly anyway. So if you happen to catch this, this is a creme de la creme, a accoutrement, so to speak. This is a little extra, something that you can wear in your learning and in your time. So hopefully you enjoy. All right. And don't forget, if you're still rolling with us and doing a $20 donation for the reduced price just for the month of February, we're doing some special SOC University teachings on Mondays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, all at 9 p.m. New York time. Monday is going to be Black History. Thursday is going to be Hebrew characters. Fridays is going to be sovereignty. Saturdays is going to be natural medicine. Come on. All right. So let's go ahead and get into this for real, and get into this particular video. And then we'll get into the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. At least for a little bit of time. It actually probably will be about the time of a live session, but this will break down into quite a few videos. So we're excited and grateful and thankful. Keep us in prayer. We're keeping you in prayer. Prayerfully staying warm and all that great stuff as well. Much love to you and your families. All right. How you doing, King D252, everybody? So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do our Bible pledge. You can put your right hand on your Bible or your device in the air and simply just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword. In this will I trust, for Yahashavai is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard, for this is my Bible, and this is Yah's word. Ad Shem Yahavah, Aman. When Yahavah Shem, his name is authority, let it be done unto us. You may be seated to go back to what you're doing in the presence of the Most High Yah. So first thing up, out the gate. First thing up, there was a little bit of Diaspora wars at the Grammys last night. That was interesting. To say the least. Now, I didn't watch it. I've only listened to what everybody else had to say. I have read had it read, listened to what persons had to say about it from different perspectives, and I think it was a very interesting thing to recall. Now, once again, as we talked about with the second horseman in Revelation chapter 6, verses 3 and 4, the goal of the world is to try and get us to go back and forth with each other and fight each other so much that we don't realize that by the time we get to the third horseman, Revelation 6, 5, and 6, that we've literally been outpriced and outsourced and do not own and all this, right? So every time we get a little bit of something, it's used to be able to get us to go back and forth, to come at each other. How you doing, Miss Ladybug? To yell and fuss and be frustrated and forget what the actual mission is, right? What we should actually be doing. So we're going to talk about it a little bit. So there's a guy, I don't know how to spell his name. I've heard of him. I have not, at least I don't think. Apparently he wrote for Beyonce, so maybe he wrote Beyonce's country song. I don't know. But he goes by the name of Shabuzi, I guess. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. I really do not know his name. I'm okay not knowing his name. I remember when old folks used to say that all the time, and you'd be like, man, you don't know so-and-so's name? As you get older, it's not just because you don't feel like it, it's because you realize, like, I don't need to know everybody's name or what everybody sings, right? But Shabuzi, however you spell it, apparently, I did not know this part, he's a Nigerian, I believe, born in the States. Parents came to the States, or his parents came to the States, and he was raised in the States. And he accepted an award, from what I comprehended, just for the best country duo. And so he accepted the award for best country duo. When he accepted the award, he made the point to give a speech in which he articulated that immigrants built this country, and he is proud to be the family, the son of immigrants, and basically kind of only in America, could one win this award. And everybody began to go off. Now, this was very interesting too, because Don Lemon was arrested at the Grammys, and so the sister was arrested. That was doing stuff. She was arrested the same night, and two other brothers were arrested, but nobody really seems to care about that on the same level as what Shabuzi said. So that was something that I caught, that I was like, that's kind of interesting, is it not? Like, there's actual things going on where reporters are getting arrested, and so-called Black reporters getting arrested, and we kind of focusing on this. We were so amazed, and to say hip hop is alive because Kendrick won 5, and I think the for Chains and Whips, I think Pusha and Malice, Pusha and No Malice won, and I guess that means Kendrick won as well, right? Yeah, Chains and Whips. So like all this different stuff. And how you doing, Sister Sheila? How you doing, White Crow? How you doing, Jay? How you doing, Dwayne? This Ladybug, if I didn't say so earlier. So, but it's very interesting, and all this stuff going on. There's a lot of distractions, but one thing that was there that I think is somewhat a serious thing we need to talk about a little bit is the fact that Shabuzi, a Nigerian, comes over and makes it a point to say, if you work hard enough, because he doubled down on it a little bit, where he had to write a letter because there was so much response to it, that he doubled down and came out and said, hey, I'm glad to be here, a place where if you work hard enough, it doesn't matter what you are, doesn't matter where you come from, and I'm proud that immigrants built the country. And he still wouldn't necessarily talk about, he was like, I know we Blacks, we Black people, we Blacks built this country. And while he's thinking from a global perspective, it's very interesting stuff that starts going on in these diaspora wars. We can start really seeing what's going on with the wars within ourselves. And I think everybody needs to kind of, I don't forget my opinion. The reality is that if we're going to get stronger together, we have to first even acknowledge, who is who and what we are, and that we're not a monolith, but at the same time, you should give credit to who credit's due. And this is one of the things that Willie Lynch, the Willie Lynch syndrome, whether you believe the Willie Lynch letter was real or not, there's real things that were done inside of it. And one of the things that it mentions in the list of things is that, hey, we need to make sure that we have persons against each other according to the plantation that they rep. Now, for the FBA, for the Foundation of Black American, you'll only focus on self and be like, yeah, so those of us that are American in America, forgetting that Willie Lynch was brought over to America from his land that he was in the West Indies, which means he came from the Caribbean, right? So we got to recall that. We got to keep that in our mind, that this was something that was anywhere slavery was. This was to be instituted, which means this was a worldwide institution, right? And if it's a worldwide institution, certain laws, rules, regulations, etc., right? Traditions were instituted and passed down. And that means that everybody, I know now I'm not saying everybody built America, but you got to recognize what's going on. And it's apropos. I'm actually wearing these colors today, all praises. I usually pray about what I'm going to wear, even though I don't know what sometimes what I'm going to say. This is apropos, right? We have to make it a point to realize and recognize that, yes, like you are correct, that there are persons that come from Africa, come from Europe, that are, that are so-called Black, POC, people of color, etc., and they dismiss so-called Black persons in the United States, or let's just say Black persons in the United States, FBA, foundational, ADOS, whatever terms you want to use. Yeah, they are taught about us that we're lazy, that we don't have enough, that the reason we didn't make it is because this and that the immigrants were more acceptable and they did more, even though they wouldn't even had an immigration reform or any kind of immigration laws, unless it was based off of the civil rights acts and based off of the civil rights movement. Yes, there's truth in that. But it also is the same thing that we were taught to go backwards. Right, we were taught to go backwards and do the same thing. Remember growing up, I know we want to pretend that it wasn't this way, but remember growing up, persons wearing dashikins and stuff like that, you're like, why do you, we were told, a lot of us were taught, why do you want to be like those dirty Africans? Right, I know how quickly we forget, right, that we have the same mindset about them that they have about us. We have the same mindset about them. They're just stupid, they're dumb, they're poor. Don't think about Timbuktu or any of these places. Timbuktu was supposed to be mythical. Right? Most of us didn't believe it. Look, I'm telling you, in the 80s in New York, in the 80s in Maryland, in the early 90s in Maryland, in DC and Virginia, I'm sure, like, and even into the 2000s, there are some folk that had no clue, and some persons still don't have any clue where Timbuktu or what these places are. If you recall, there was a guy named what's his name? Not Kai, but I Show Speed. I Show Speed did this whole thing to where he still looked really ignorant, but at least he was going over there, and he went to all these different countries in Africa, and he was showing like the beauty of these places. He was showing the wildlife. He was showing the cities. He was showing the countries. He was showing the different nations, or if you want to call them tribes. He was going through all these different things to make sure that persons knew. And there were a lot of children that were watching, and a lot of children were coming out on social media, and a lot of young adults, a lot of teenagers were coming out, right? Juveniles were coming on and admitting like, oh, I didn't even know that Africa had cars. Now, some might have been tongue in cheek, some might have been trolling, but they're legit persons that don't even know. Like, if you go to Ghana, for example, there's a Ghanaian car there that's one of the greatest vehicles one can get. But a lot of Ghanaians don't even buy it because they've made it cheaper, right? Through persons who control Ghana and other countries, they've actually made it cheaper or easier, at least, to be able to get foreign cars that are older and falling apart than to get cars built in Ghana, right? And how you doing? How you doing, Sister Valor? Or right, Vani? Am I saying? Is that the right Vani? Am I getting the wrong person? I think that's correct. If it isn't, please forgive me. Correct me. Right? But we forget. There's a lot of persons that do not even know, that, but they don't know about Lagos, right? One of the biggest cities in the world, and one of the most beautiful cities in the world. They don't think about Timbuktu, to where if you want to know history and see where persons still go to some of the first universities ever built that still are, situated in the same buildings they were crafted. And a lot of us have no clue about these different things, right? We have no clue. We're just told, oh yeah, it's whatever. It's this and that, don't even worry about it. Don't read about it. Mansa Musa used to be a name that persons didn't even know. And now that most persons even know about his culture, is basically just that, oh yeah, he had a lot of gold, not even realizing how he shifted economies, how his brother and others were traveling over to South America, how, he has a Hebrew name, how he was Negro, how there's, or at least let's say we lean towards he was Negro. Some persons would argue that, and they would have decent argument, to be honest. But just we're not aware of these things. So there's a lot of stuff that we forget, where we're told. So persons, in England, we'll look at persons in America, everybody will follow now the style. And everybody want to rap. Everybody want to play the blues. Even some of the great leaders and foundational workers, would use Afrofusion, which is really, a lot of jazz and Cuban and stuff like that, and fuse it into African beats, which really are all the same thing. But that's the original Afro beats. If you look at the origins of Afrobeat. And how you doing? Is that young brother Solomon? Looks like it. If I remember correctly, you got a bunch of different accounts, right? But and how you doing, sir? And how you doing, Sister Shirley? But yeah, these are things that are there. These are things that are real, and we don't talk about all these different things that are going on. So yes, there are. We were taught to fight against one another, right? Hey, son. Yeah, we were taught to fight against one another. We were literally taught all day to fight against each other. And so Shabuzi, once again, I hope I'm saying his name right. I don't know how to spell it, so I'm not going to pretend to. But he wins an award, and he comes out and he talks about, hey, I'm thankful that the immigrants built the country. He is not from the country, at least the corporation of the United States. He doesn't recognize the venom that even is coming towards him. He doesn't even comprehend why it comes towards him. Because in his mind, what did I say that's wrong? Matter of fact, in his mind, hey, look at the climate of the country. What's going on? ICE is doing this. ICE is doing that. They've been sending persons back to Mexico, even though Mexico technically is what persons are living in. Why would he not, in his mind, why would he not say that? And then when he hears black, he starts saying, oh, okay, well, yeah, we know that we as blacks built but also I want to celebrate the immigrants. But you kind of are dismissive to the journey. Now, this is where we have to have an honest dialogue. Now that we recognize we've all been taught to kind of be against each other, we have to have some dialogue to where, hey, first things first. Can I say this? We need to stop doing this. And I'm not saying Sammy Davis Jr. never said anything of value. I'm not saying what's his face? I always forget his name. The one that was the one that Sidney Poitier with Harry Belafonte. I'm not saying Harry Belafonte isn't somebody that we shouldn't ever listen to. I'm not saying that we should have never listened to Eartha Kitt. I'm not saying we should never try to hear what any of our celebrities say, Bill Cosby, whomever, right? But there's a danger when we make these persons leaders because they are celebrity. For us, the celebrities have, in a sense, almost had to become de facto leaders. They have become this. They have just kind of had to be our leaders simply because we've had no voice. And so when somebody's been in a situation where they get a microphone in their face, it's expected by our diaspora that they should be somebody studied up, securing who they are, giving a message, making sure that they represent us and never mess up in any way, shape, or form, right? But these are not who these persons are. Now, I'm thankful that some of them have. I'm thankful there's a LeVar Burton who gets up and, does stuff like reading Rainbow, after doing Kunta Kinte, while being a representative of us and representing us well in Star Trek. And even to this day has his own podcast and focuses on things to make sure the children still are learning how to read, and that literacy around the world, the literacy rate, can remain as high as possible. Right. He just received an award, actually, where Lawrence Fishburne introduced him and gave me a reward. Had my wife and I breaking down in the car crying. It was emotional because that was our guy. Then they messed around and had us on, Mr. Rogers came right behind that. the nostalgia was crazy yesterday. But yeah, these persons did do great things for us. And it's right. So I'm glad that there are some who worked really diligently and worked very hard to ensure that there was, more of an opportunity for us than most thought that we would ever receive. That being said, though, these persons are not, they're not, our leaders. They're not our pastors. They're not our, our honorable Marcus Garvey. They're not our Minister Malcolm X's. They're not our Sojourner Truths. They're not our Harriet Tubmans. Even like Madam C.J. Walker. Madam C.J. Walker has a great story and everything, but she's not, she's not, I'm trying to say Mahalia, but that's not who I'm looking for. What's sister's name from down south that could sing, but would always speak up for us and was there on that bus that they got her? I can't, I'm trying to call her Hattie. I don't think that's it. But, whatever sister girl's name is, our ancestor's name is, auntie's name is, but we assume these persons are supposed to be ready for that conversation. And it's just like when persons go and they get an award. Plaque Cardi gets an award, giving honor to God. I mean, well, first of all, we know about that word, but also too, giving honor to the Most High. If that's what you're doing, your life doesn't show it. So I'm not expecting Lil Wayne gets up on there, make sure he brings all 20-something children on from all these different women and makes it a point to say, we got to be real fathers in here. And everybody's clapping. Back in the day, the MTV Awards or BT Awards or whatever it was. And the reality is like, this guys can't be in all those children's lives like that. I don't expect Cam Newton to be somebody, especially he's never even shown, he's shown that basically he's somebody that went through college but didn't really attend and wasn't trying to actually learn or grow. He was just waiting for his opportunity to get to the NFL. He's somebody that's been probably a celebrity in his neighborhood in some way, shape, or form, and in his life in some way, shape, or form. A person saw the potential in him probably since he was, 12 years old or so, 12 to 15. Like LeBron James, I don't expect LeBron James to come out here and to be spitting knowledge on all this stuff or whatever. LeBron James has been looking to make money and find a way out of the hood in Akron, basically since, they were calling him the chosen one when he was age 12. And before then, like age 7, 8 years old, persons understood, oh, he different, right? So one of the things that we make a mistake in, whether it be Shabuzi or anybody else, is that these persons are going to come and they're going to represent, first of all, the Most High, which should be our number one thing. But then secondly, our diaspora, and learn about it enough and recognize it enough to go to different places they do. So we shouldn't expect any of these celebrities. It does happen from time to time, and we're grateful when it does. However, we should not expect any of these celebrities to make sure that they start breaking down things and thinking about us and expecting for them to be our leaders. Just because somebody is more famous, we're going to talk about that a little later in another Patreon video, but just because somebody is famous does not mean that they are a leader. Right? To give you just a little preview as far as what we're going to talk about in that, imagine that you have, we have to recognize when somebody says something with, what somebody's trying to sell to 15 million persons is not the same as what somebody might say in a pitch meeting, for one, right? Somebody doing one meeting, they're pitching to try and take care of persons, who they might reach 15 million. It's a different conversation. And we had this mindset that somebody being able to do something for 15 million means that, they're taking care of each and every family. No, like they can take care of 15 million. They can represent 15 million, but still not make sure that 500 eat. Right. So we have to recognize that there's a limit and levels to this. That being said, I didn't realize how long we've already been on this. So to close this video up, we have to recognize and realize that, yes, there are different groups who have gone through different things, right? If you're an Haiti, Dominican, you have a different mindset as far as even how we operate with each other or what our condition is concerning so-called whiteness and all this stuff. If you're dealing with Jamaica, right? Somebody out of, not recognizing, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican, it can sound very similar, not just accent wise, even put in there the Bahamas, others as well, right? Bahamian, it can sound similar in different ways. And even the music and even some of the culture will be similar depending on who was over who, right? And who fought who and who got free win, et cetera, even though there's an argument to be made that there's still a lot of freedom that needs to take place, right? But that being said, yeah, there can be a lot of that stuff going on. Simultaneously, though, the culture of things is different. The maroon, if you will, if you want to use that term, is different in Jamaica than it is in Haiti, right? The maroon, if you want to use that term, that's in Mexico, or that's in Puerto Rico, or that's in Brazil. And I know they don't all use that same term, but you hopefully get what I'm saying. The person who was able to keep culture for generations operates completely different. And so if somebody comes to the United States of America, which, by the way, we do a poor work sometimes of remembering, hey, the South is different than the South, right? And some things in with Black culture in Oregon is going to be different than Black culture in New York, so to speak. We're going to use these terms, right? And the culture in the Midwest is going to be similar to stuff in Mississippi, because a lot of cats in Mississippi came up, to the Midwest. And if you're in Carolina, you're going to have a lot of Cherokee. In D.C., stand for deep country. And a lot of deep country come from the Carolinas. So a lot of cats in D.C., you're going to have a culture there, right? Even in that. So if we're going to break it down, even in the FBA thing or whatever, we're still kind of missing the mark as far as how do we even come to this. Ultimately, if unity is the goal, then let's unify over something. And as much as persons don't want to hear this, that means integrity, integral, being one. So if it's integral, if it's integrity being one, that means we got to figure out who we worship. And I know everybody's so busy talking about that's what got us in trouble in the first place. We worship something and they got us into this, and we had all these different spirits that we worship. But then you guys keep going back to the same thing, talking about what it is, or you're trying to do something that's, as an atheist or agnostic. And I'm here to tell you, part of what governs a country, part of what governs a diaspora, part of what governs a people is who you worship. You're going to have to figure out who you worship, how to worship, because your worship is going to affect how your husbands treat their wives and their wives treat their husbands. It's going to influence your mission, because if your mission is just to say, persons that I deem to be black, whatever your version of blackness is, it falls apart if it's not bigger than, this mortal frame. So first video for today. Thank you guys for being on. Appreciate you. We're going to continue with other Patreon videos. Hopefully you guys enjoy. We'll make sure that this one's one that you guys can find in different areas. If you're with us over here, we're going to have a bunch of different videos in a row in a second. I'm just going to make sure that we got everything set up for the children who are doing their session at the same time simultaneously, and make sure that they have everything sent to them. But we're going to go ahead and do but we're going to be on for a little bit, so if you want to come in and out or something like that, feel free. But Tadach, thank you everybody. How you doing, Sister Deborah? So we're going to go ahead. This will be once again shared on Patreon for you. This one will actually be public, so everybody should have a chance to be able to see it. If you're a free Patreon member, if you just want to view it on YouTube. So we thank you again for being on. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you got something out of it. And remember, as always, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you're fearfully, wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, take care, and I will talk with you in a little bit, or we'll just be back on a little bit. Peace.